So ADHD and sensory processing often can go along together, or they could be mistaken one for the other. So how do you begin to tease those two apart? So today on ADHD, What Now, we are going to speak with Kranowitz, who is the author of Out of Sync Child. And she is going to give us some insights so that you can understand and tease apart the difference between those two. My name is Veronica Hunter. I'm the hostess of this YouTube channel and founder of ADHD What Now. Delighted to welcome you here. Let's dive in so that you can begin to tease this apart for your family and experience some greater success.
Delighted to welcome Kranowitz, and she wrote a fantastic book, The Out of Sync Child. And if at the end of this conversation you are thinking this is hitting home, then I would absolutely invite you to get that book because it's amazing. Just reading the first few chapters, if this is to describe your kid, you will identify them within the first few pages and get some great help there too. So Carol, thank you for being here. And how does one distinguish sensory processing from ADHD? And they often can go together. So what's the relationship there?
Okay. So sensory processing is good. Just a little correction. We all want sensory processing. So SPD is the acronym for sensory processing disorder. These days, the trend is to call it sensory processing differences. Because it's less negative, and being very, very sensitive to sound, for instance, doesn't have to be a disadvantage. It can also be an advantage. You might have perfect pitch. You might be a musician who can hear nuances in sound that other people can't. So anyway, SPD I think of now more like sensory processing differences. And how to tell the difference between SPD and ADHD. A very wise OT said to me one day, it's simple. Take the kid outside and have him run around the school playground 3 times. If he has SPD, this is going to invigorate him and organize him, and he's going to be able to sit down and do the math assignment, but it's not going to affect the kid with ADHD. It will help him because everybody loves that exercise, and I mean it will help him a little bit, but it won't make the attention better to do the math. So I thought that was a little tongue-in-cheek, but actually it might have some bearing. Here's what helps kids with SPD. Appropriate physical activity that addresses the issues that are the problem. For example, if a child has a vestibular issue, and that would be with his balance and his movement, a child who's afraid of going up and down stairs, a child who goes upstairs right, left, right, left, right, left, instead of right, left, right, left. Why would you do this? This is called marking time when you go up this way. Why would an 8-year-old go upstairs that way? Well, because it halves the time that he has to be on one foot balancing, which could be primally terrifying. It's hard to see what isn't there. If you don't see your child on the playground equipment, you might say, oh, my kid doesn't like swinging in playground. My kid likes books. Okay, we're going to do books. We're going to go to the library. Well, we don't want to torture our kids. So we don't know how important it is to get kids on the swings unless we know that. Of course, if you have multiple children, as you do, Veronica, those differences might have been more evident to you than they would have been if your little guy was an only child. You would really have been in the dark, but you were able to intuit that some things he's doing are not what his siblings are doing. Mm-hmm. All right, so we have to put on our imaginary sensory goggles and look at our kids and think about these sensory systems. Is this unusual behavior that my child is doing, is it possibly because he's not managing sensations of it that are coming to his inner ear? Very common problems with children are tactile and vestibular together. So you often see a child who doesn't want to be touched or doesn't want to touch things, or doesn't want to be touched passively. He freaks out if somebody touches him, but he's very much an active toucher. That's a common thing too. So this child's in your face practically. He's just, you mentioned your little boy leaned. He could be afraid of some kind of touch sensations, light, unexpected sensations. For instance, like someone passing by and patting him kindly on the shoulder might alarm a child, but he might like really deep pressure that he initiates, like a bear hug. Or I remember as a teacher, children would come to me and wrap around my knee. And, I finally figured out how to keep a grip, not fall down all the time whenever I was getting one of these big hugs. But if you don't understand it, you think, what is this pest doing? And other children don't understand it. When a kid seeking deep pressure is always crashing into them, he's doing it. He likes them. He likes being near them. He likes that jolt of the connection. It's hard to interpret without our glasses on. So I said tactile and vestibular issues often go together. Here's the crazy thing about SPD, sensory processing differences. We can have a child who is over responsive to touch sensations that come passively. This same child is intensely interested in touching things that are okay to him and that he wants to touch. And the same kid often is afraid of playground equipment and movement and turning and stairs and elevators and the car and the carriage or the same kid can crave all those things. He loves escalators. He loves being on the rotary tire swing. I can swing for 1,000,000 minutes, I remember one little boy saying, and he did. I'm just giving you some of the many permutations of how a child can be over responsive one day, under responsive another day. A child can have a specialty in one of the sensory systems, or a child can be a generalist and have issues in all 8 sensory systems. But once you put on your goggles and sensory spectacles rather, and you begin to think and maybe take notes, you are going to begin to see patterns, and it is the hugest aha. And then you go to the doctor and you say, this is my list. These are common experiences my child has. My other children do not respond to Jell-O the way Timothy does. I'll sell my book for a minute. If you go to my book, there are lots and lots of lists in here of characteristics of children who have challenges in the different systems. And if you go through these lists and check them, readers also have permission to copy those and hand the lists over to teachers and doctors who don't have time to read a book, but might appreciate a list, and get the dialogue started. So I want to just reinforce the look-alikeness of SPD and ADHD. because I was talking about, I was referring to inattention and overactivity. Think about the child who has a tactile issue, and the best thing is soft, often washed cotton or velour. The texture of clothes is very important. And say today he's got a shirt on that it has polyester in it or something, and it's very irritating to his skin. That's what he's thinking about, so he's inattentive because of a sensory issue. It's not because it's ADHD. So often it's the child is put on a psychostimulant for ADHD, and if we all took Ritalin, we probably would pay better attention. Everybody I've heard would pay better attention. So you think, okay, this child is much better because he's on Ritalin now. Well, yeah, but when the Ritalin wears off, he's back to being irritated by the loud clatter of silverware and the movement of the automobile and the need to go in an escalator on the escalator, and all of these things are a problem in anticipation, in process, and in reflection on what they did. They are going to be stuck on this discomfort and anxiety over an escalator or over the noise of a classroom.
Thank you, Carol. That is amazing. And I know that Carol is such an expert in sensory processing and being able to understand it and explain it in an easily accessible way. So absolutely, I would recommend, if you want to go more into sensory processing, check out her webpage, outofsyncchild.com, which is also linked down below, or the book Out of Sync Child. Also, if you are interested in more about understanding your child and picking any next steps, go to whatnowADHD.com, and I will see you there and be cheering you on.